Those of you who know me understand that speaking in front of large groups is not part of my skill set. I tend to prefer small group settings. So, if I pass out from vasovagal syncope, many of you will be able to explain the effects of the parasympathetic nervous system, as well as the compensatory mechanisms at work to maintain homeostasis within blood pressure. But seriously, somebody should probably catch me. So let's see a show of hands as to how many of you remember discussing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system in one of your St. Ambrose University courses. I'm especially looking at you, our first graduating class of physician's assistants. This is such an unexpected and terrifying honor to be your commencement speaker. And of course, I want to thank Bishop Amos, Sister Joan, Paul Cook, the cabinet, the Board of Trustees, my colleagues, my family, and all of my past and present students for this amazing opportunity. As the first person in my extended family to go to college, I continue to be grateful for all the opportunities that I have been afforded. Just like many of you, it took me a while to figure out a career path for myself. I certainly did not envision myself as a science professor at age of 18. In fact, because I grew up as part of the working poor and I was good at science, my parents encouraged me to become a physician because they saw it as a path to financial stability. So I set off to a liberal arts college, not all that different from St. Ambrose University, as a pre-med major. And perhaps also similar to some of you, I had a difficult time transitioning my first semester. In fact, my grade point was so low that I was worried about losing my scholarships. Luckily, I had 3.5 more years to get serious about my academics and improve my grade point average. A couple of experiences during my college career steered me away from my pre-med pathway and towards a future in biology. Like some of you, I wanted to obtain real-world experience, and for me that meant spending time volunteering in the emergency room of a hospital. This experience taught me that I was much more interested in the pathology of disease and much less interested in treating the patient. During that time as well, I took a research seminar class in which I was required to present a research proposal. Not only did I enjoy digging into the primary literature in biology, but I was excited about the teaching aspect of the assignment, especially when I had the opportunity to explain the project to my peers. So I decided to apply for graduate school and pursue a PhD in physiology instead. But it wasn't the degree alone that had made me into a scientist. In fact, I'm continuously improving my scientific reasoning skills and trying to live up to that label. But enough about the past. I stand before you on this important day as each of you looks forward to what lies ahead as a graduate from St. Ambrose University. After many hours contemplating which words of wisdom would be perfectly succinct that I could share with you on such a momentous occasion, it came to me. Watch your fish. Yes, I said watch your fish. Now, this may seem confusing at first, but I hope it will hold some meaning after this story. This is from an essay written in 1874 by Samuel H. Scudder called Look at Your Fish. Samuel entered the laboratory of Professor Agassiz at Harvard University because he was interested in studying the natural history of animals. The professor told Samuel, "Take this fish and look at it. We call it a hemelon, and by I will ask you what you've seen." Samuel looked at the fish for 10 minutes, and of course he got bored, and he went to look for his professor. With no luck finding his professor, Samuel writes, "Half an hour passed, an hour, another hour. The fish began to look loathsome. I turned it over and around. I looked at it in the face, ghastly. From behind, beneath, above, sideways, three-quarters view, just as ghastly. And to think he was sitting in an empty laboratory without even a cell phone." Samuel continues, "At last a happy thought struck me. I would draw the fish. And now with surprise, I began to discover new features in the creature. When Samuel described his observations to his professor, the professor exclaimed, You haven't even seen one of the most conspicuous features of the animal, which is plainly before your eyes, is the fish itself. Look again, look again. Samuel was mortified by the criticism from his professor, but he was intrigued as well. How could he miss something so obvious? So he took it upon himself to study the fish for the rest of the afternoon and was able to face his professor the next morning. "Do you perhaps mean," Samuel asked, "that the fish has symmetrical sides with paired organs?" The professor, thoroughly pleased, replied, "Of course, of course." Samuel ventured to ask what he should do next. "Oh, look at your fish," the professor said, and left Samuel to his own devices. Samuel concludes his essay by describing how this training in the method of careful observation, along with continuously questioning what he had learned, served him well in his career as an entomologist, and he went on to publish 790 papers on insect observations. By sitting here today, you've already spent a lot of time studying your hemelon, but instead of a fish, yours may have been in the form of Shakespeare, or philosophical ideology, or biology. You made tough choices during your college career. You chose to go to class when it was dark and raining. You chose to study or finish homework instead of binge watching Netflix. You chose to go to the library instead of hanging out with friends. Those choices and sacrifices brought you to this moment. I don't expect that I'm going to offer you any advice that you haven't heard before as you begin the next phase of your life, whether it's a new job or graduate program. You already know the most important lesson. You and only you are the person in charge of the direction of your life. So even if you haven't studied much science at St. Ambrose University, I think much can be learned from applying the steps of the scientific method to any problem you will face in the future. So my advice to you is this. First, pay attention, observe closely, be curious. Second, ask questions based on what you observe. Formulate hypotheses or propose answers to questions. Third, investigate. Analyze the data. Use your skill set from your St. Ambrose education to think critically. Dig below the surface. Fourth, draw deep conclusions. Easy answers hold little value. It is the tough questions and problems that we learn the most from. E.O. Wilson, a famous biologist and naturalist, and one of my favorite scientists, has spent his entire life studying ants. According to him, we are drowning in information while starving for wisdom. The world henceforth will be run by synthesizers, people able to put together the right information at the right time, think critically about it, and make important choices wisely. That is you, all you. I hope that at St. Ambrose University, you found the seeds of wisdom to enable you to watch your fish. Think deeply and critically, find answers to the tough questions, and then take a break and watch some Netflix. Thank you.